Do you remember the sound of boots echoing on the cobbled sidewalks, the smell of coal mixed with the damp morning air, the murmur of street markets early in the day? This was London's East End in the 1960s, a decade that left a deep mark on the history of this region, a place where time seemed to move more slowly even as the world outside rushed toward the future. This was the world captured by David Granik, an amateur photographer whose work remained hidden for decades until it was recently rediscovered. Granik was born in Stepney, at the heart of the East End, in 1912. He grew up surrounded by the constant pulse of working-class life, the narrow streets and the bustling markets. When he began photographing in his 50s, he wasn't just capturing images, he was preserving memories. Each photo had a precise date and location, as if he wanted to make it clear that these were real stories, real lives. And what he captured was an intimate portrait of a community shaped by daily struggles, quiet resilience, and the dignity of manual labor. In the 1960s, the East End still bore the scars of World War II. The bombings had devastated entire neighborhoods, especially the docks along the Thames. But even so, life went on. Factories kept running, markets remained busy, and people followed their routines as if work itself were an act of resistance against the chaos of the outside world. Imagine Spitalfields Market, for example. Makeshift stalls sold fruits, vegetables, and fabrics, while the shouts of vendors competed with the buzz of conversations. This was where many families did their daily shopping, stretching every penny to make it to the next payday. But the market was more than just a place of commerce. It was also a gathering space, a place where people shared stories, laughter, and sometimes tears. Picture a stall full of red apples, so vibrant they seemed to leap from the image. In the background, tired but determined faces reflect the dignity of manual labor. These people were not just sellers or buyers, they were part of an invisible network that kept the East End alive. Factories also played a central role in working-class life. Many East End residents worked in local industries, from shipyards to clothing and furniture factories. The sound of machines was a constant, a reminder that industrial progress depended on these people's sweat and toil. Imagine workers leaving, their night shifts, their faces marked by exhaustion, but also by the satisfaction of a job well done. They were the silent pillars of the British economy, even if their contributions often went unnoticed. The daily life of the working class in the East End was a blend of simplicity and hardship. Homes were modest, many still bearing the marks of the post-war period. Picture an abandoned house next to modern buildings. The scene is emblematic, the old and the new coexisting, but the new always advancing. For many families, these houses were more than just bricks and roofs. They were homes where generations were raised, where stories were told, where lives were lived. And then there were the street markets, like Watney Market. How many times have you been there? It was a place of encounters, of conversations, of laughter, but it was also a reflection of that melancholic time, of the daily struggle to survive. The surrounding houses were worn down, some already demolished, and yet there was beauty there, a simple human beauty. Chris Dawley Brown, who rediscovered these photographs, said something that deeply resonates. The East End was changing. Rapidly during these decades, the area was in great decline. My sense is that Granik wanted to preserve this melancholic post-war atmosphere. It is truly the last glimpse of a lost paradise. Granik was not a professional photographer, but his images are impressionistic, personal. He knew what to include and what to leave out. London is a visually chaotic place, not easy to photograph well, but he managed. His compositions were precise, careful. He captured the essential, what truly mattered. And he used Kodachrome, a film so stable that the images remain as vibrant today as they were on the day they were taken. Thanks to this, we can look at these photos now and feel as if we are there once again. Imagine an abandoned house in the shadow of a newly built 17-story housing block, or an elderly woman in a pink cardigan pausing at her doorway. The house next to hers has been demolished, but its floral wallpaper is still visible on the exposed side of her home. Another scene might show a man pulling a horse-drawn cart, pointing toward the camera. Behind him, the steeple of a 17th century church and an industrial crane. These contrasts between old and new, traditional and modern, were omnipresent in the East End of that time. The emergence of these images is extremely timely. The rapid pace of urban development in today's East End is out of control. Local residents are being displaced by real estate speculation. These images remind us of what could be lost. They are more than just photographs. They are memories frozen in time. They remind us of who we were, where we came from, and they invite us to preserve this memory so that future generations can also know this piece of history, because in the end, that is what truly matters, remembering. Chris Dawley Brown wrote, the introduction to the recently published book, The East End, in color 1960-1980 by Hoxton Mini Press. In his text, he reflects on the world Granik captured on the brink of great transformations. The photographer knew he was taking the last pictures of those docks, steamships, and warehouses before they were replaced by imagined hotels and marinas, writes Dawley Brown. Those post-Dockland utopias would soon be upgraded to steel and glass businesses, shameful monuments of late capitalism. The future was in a distant haze just around the corner,